The last few months I've been vibe coding with AI coding tools like Lovable and Bolt, and seeing what kind of websites I was able to create with just a prompt has made me think. Because the workflow to create these kinds of websites is so much easier than what you have with WordPress and Elementor. And that's because with AI coding, you simply start with a prompt. And starting with a prompt changes everything. Because in the WordPress world, we are used to an install first approach. You first have to pick a hosting company. Once you're inside of WordPress, you have to install a theme. Then you have to install some plugins. And then finally, you can start dragging and dropping in widgets. And that's actually a lot of steps before you can get started. And so this is much closer to how we as humans think. We just have an idea and we want to get started right away. Look at this. This took, I think, 2 minutes. Yeah, literally, while I was explaining this to you, Lovable has built this construction website for me. It generated the design and the development. It even has a project page. And so of course this raises the question, can AI coding replace WordPress and maybe even page builders completely? But first let's take a deep breath, because my conclusion is not as dark. Okay. Let's first take a look at some examples, because we shouldn't judge everything by just one prompt. So I have opened the library of a Bolt and a Lovable, and I'm also going to show you some of the projects that I myself have made and that my students have made. The ones you see right here are pretty good, but they are also chosen by this company as a display of what it can do. This one I like a lot because it's not as basic as other AI websites I have seen. This is good stuff, we have to admit. A photography website with a slider that is a little bit clunky. Nice animations, hover effects. Okay, let's take a look at some examples of Lovable. A apartment website with a weird looking slider here. Okay, this looks fine. You see what I mean? This is a very decent design. Is it super custom? No, but it is good enough for many businesses. This is a simple education website that I tried before. It's actually a one-pager that automatically scrolls to each section, but it has made this timeline, which looks pretty cool. This one is pretty basic, marketing strategist, but as you can see, it looks decent. And then this one I think is also nice. It's from one of my students who, according to his own words, started out with a good prompt. This is quite a cool website. You can see filters, it has hover animations, but yeah, pretty good work, right? But you can also do it a little bit more complex by creating posts. So this is a website that I created, a resource website, where there are filters on the side, there are tags, and there's even an admin login where I can add resources, which will then add it to the database. You can manage categories and tags. There is a submission review window. If I press OK here, it will be posted on the website. So this is a little bit closer to what WordPress can do. And I've also built a web app with AI coding, which some of you have seen already. It's a color palette generator and a typography skill generator. This is not a website, it's a web app, but this was all generated by AI. And so, like I said, the workflow is very different, because you don't start out by dragging widgets. You start out with a prompt, but then you also continue with a prompt. So for example, if I want to change the color theme of this website from green to red and orange, I'm not going to go into the site settings. I'm just going to tell it, make the theme of this website red and orange. Let's see what happens. And there you go. After 1 minute of waiting, the whole website has been transformed into a red and orange theme. So we have to admit, this is a pretty amazing technology. So let's talk about the benefits of using AI coding. The first big benefit is what I already said, is that you don't have to worry about installing themes and plugins and all that stuff that you have with a system like WordPress. You just start with a prompt. And then even if you want to make changes, many of these AI tools now also have editing buttons. So then you get a page builder editing-like experience. So for example, let's change the background color of this button to blue. And there you go. And you don't get as many options as you get with Elementor, but it's enough for simple websites. Another huge benefit is that you can publish right away. So let's say that I'm happy with my changes, I click save, and now I can literally click on publish here, and now my website is live. You guys can literally go to this link, I will put it in the video description, and check it out. Yes, it's still on a subdomain, but they also allow you to add a custom domain. For example, what I did over here, I bought a domain on Hostinger and I easily connected it because I could just log into Hostinger from Lovable and connect my domain. So prompt, edit, publish. So there's not only the benefit of not installing a lot, there's also the benefit of not having to create all of the containers. And if you don't like a container that they created, you can just select it and then ask it to change. Let's try it out. While that's loading, I will tell you another benefit. There is no plugin license cost. On WordPress, you have to have many plugins that you have to pay for on a yearly basis in order to keep your website live. But since AI is creating code straight away, it skips the whole need for plugins. And so that also means that you also don't have plugin updates. And let's be honest, on WordPress, that can cause quite a bit of issues. And look at that. While we were talking, it has converted it into an icon box slider, exactly as I asked. I didn't have to look for a widget, it just did it. And so you don't need a page builder plugin, but you also don't need other plugins because the AI can literally make whatever you want. So for example, let's ask it to create a cost calculator that will open when I click on a button that's going to be placed over here. And there we go. After 1 minute of waiting, it added a cost calculator. Let's click on it. This is amazing. Here, how many hours do we need? Calculate the cost. It just came up with this. And of course you can prompt further to adjust it, but look how cool it works immediately as well. So yeah, when I started to play around with this, I was very excited because this takes so many headaches away compared to working with WordPress. But when I started to work more with it, I also realized that it's actually not all sunshine and rainbows, because there's also quite a bit of downsides to it. So let's talk about that. A huge downside to AI coding is that the database is not automatically set up for you. In WordPress, once you make a post or you upload an image, it is uploaded to your database. And your database is something that you cannot see, but it's where everything is saved. And your hosting basically does that in the background, and then WordPress just reads what's on the database. So that just makes everything easy. But these AI coding tools, they just create the front end, but once you want to connect it to the back end, so you want to have post and a login and an overview of your images, you need some kind of database. And almost all of these tools, they integrate with a platform called Supabase. And this is then where all of your data is stored. But this is a developer-focused platform. It is not easy to use for most people. And so that's already more technical and harder to use than WordPress. But the huge problem is that the backups or restore options inside of these AI coding tools, they don't restore the database, only the front end. And this is huge because what sometimes happens is that you make a mistake or AI just runs into an error and then you want to go back a few steps. But if the AI tool already has made changes to your database, it cannot roll that back. And so what happens is that your database and your front end is then different, and then you're basically fucked.
No! Oh God, please, no! No!
Because how are you going to solve that if you don't know how to work with a platform like this, which is a lot more technical than WordPress? It is a nightmare, and I've had a few situations where I literally had to start over completely. And so maybe this will improve in the future, where the AI platforms can also restore changes in the database. But for now, this is a huge limitation, and it is very risky if you invest a lot of time into a project and then you don't know how to go back. So in WordPress, a backup is a full backup of the database and what you did on the front end. That is just so much safer. And that leads me to the next point, which is that this platform called Supabase gives you 2 free projects, but 2 is never enough. So when you get to project number 3, then you have to pay $10 a month just for the database. And we're not talking about hosting yet, okay? So if you compare that to a company like Hostinger, which offers the hosting and the database in once for the same price, then you're starting to see that this is actually not a bad deal at all. And so I think that's still a bit pricey. And I was already talking about errors. And this happens a lot. You will run a lot into errors and then you have to chat with the AI in order to solve them. And the AI is really good, but it's not 100% perfect yet. People say it's like 80% good. And so what often happens is that when the project gets bigger, the AI starts to make mistakes. And if you then don't know how to solve these issues, which is very likely because many WordPress users are not developers who can actually just go to the code and make all of the changes themselves, then you also have a problem. And so the conclusion that I came to is that with AI, it's very easy to start, but it's hard when things get big. And with WordPress, it's the opposite. It's harder to start because you have to install all of these things. But once it's set up, then you don't have a lot of issues. I mean, sometimes some incompatibility and security issues, but the system itself, it just works. It's not gonna crash all of a sudden when you do one little thing. You can always go back. So that makes WordPress a safe place to develop. Not as light and fun, but way more reliable when you're running a real business or managing client work. Which also brings me to the next downside, which is management. A huge benefit of WordPress, because it's a layer on top of the database to manage your content, is that you can actually manage stuff. Okay, so for example, on WordPress, you can just click on an image and see information about it. When was it uploaded? By who was it uploaded? What's the size? What's the type? What's the pixels? And sometimes you need that information. But with AI coding, there is not a system like that. There's no overview of your images. Or let's say that you're trying to find out what type of custom fields you have for this specific post type. It's not there with AI coding. In WordPress, it's there. Let's say that you have a web shop with e-commerce. Is there a list of your customers? Can you easily find what they bought and when and where's the invoice? It's not here, even though you could build it. So yeah, with AI coding, you don't get a lot out of the box. You have to think of everything yourself. With WordPress, you have to install, but everything is there. And then another downside I have to say is that the design options are still a bit limited, unless you really know how to describe certain things. But that actually takes design experience. It will be very hard for clients to prompt creative designs. And with some AI coding tools, you can provide a Figma file, but then of course you need a Figma file. And then it's not gonna be perfect, so then you have to edit all of these things by yourself with limited options. And then another downside is that you cannot easily switch hosting. Yes, you do get the code, but many hosting companies don't allow you to just upload whatever code you want, because many WordPress hosting companies are optimized for WordPress. So then you need to buy some VPS hosting, but that's a lot harder to set up. And so you need quite a bit of technical skills in order to transfer this to another hosting, because right now by default it's hosted on the Lovable subdomain, and that's the same on Bolt, by the way. And so I think it's a huge benefit of WordPress that we have all kinds of migrate plugins and you can easily switch from hosting if you want to. And then the last downside of AI coding is collaborating with clients. So let's say you built a perfect website with AI coding and then your client wants to change some images and text. Not all clients want it, but many clients do. So then you can invite them. Lovable has introduced an invite feature, but then you basically give your client full control of the prompt box. And I don't know if that's a great idea. If you have worked with clients before, then you know what I'm talking about. You want to give clients often limited editing capabilities, otherwise things can go really wrong. And so until these AI coding companies have found a way to safely collaborate with clients, then it's just too dangerous to collaborate on a project. As you saw, I tried to keep things nuanced. I looked at the benefit, but also the downside. So let's now answer the question, can AI coding replace WordPress? I think the answer is yes and no. Yes, for small, simple websites that just need a few static pages, especially one-pagers that are very easy, and maybe even some more complex projects with posts, because it is possible to connect it to a database and make it work. It's just not super easy. And I think it is still too challenging for clients to do it themselves. So yes, they can start with a prompt. Everybody can start with that lovely prompt box you get in the beginning. But once you have to think about post optimization, content management, login with different users, that's when things become complex, tricky, because you can run into errors, and clients often just don't know what's possible. I think AI coding is the first real threat to WordPress in many years. It was not Webflow, it was not Framer. Yes, these are competitors, but this is a completely different game. Right now it's all prompt based, but as you may have seen, companies like OpenAI have also started working with agents. So soon you're probably gonna have an AI talking to you, asking you questions about what you want, and it will then build that into the website. We haven't seen that yet, but my point is it will get better pretty fast. But it cannot replace all projects. Projects where content management is very important, where you're dealing with real customer data, when things get complex in terms of design and functionality, where you need stability and cannot take a lot of risk, that's where I would not recommend AI coding for now, and I would stick to our old friend WordPress, even though it's very outdated at this point. And I also want to say that it's highly likely that companies like Elementor will also see these kinds of AI tools and then will try to create a prompt first experience for Elementor, and then you have the best of both worlds, in my opinion, because you have the stability and control of WordPress, but you don't have all of the hassle with installing. And what's also highly likely is that code snippet plugins like these ones will start to build in functionality where you can create snippets with AI, which can then replace many plugins from the WordPress directory. I think that's gonna happen pretty soon, and that will also make WordPress a lighter place with less plugins, because AI can do a lot of things. WordPress is designed to build on top of. So WordPress as a content management system is actually pretty well positioned for this AI phase, if they take AI seriously. I'm not so sure about that. So for my own clients, I am not yet gonna use AI coding. Maybe if a friend wants something super simple, I will use it. But if there's any risk involved, I am not going to do it yet. I'm just gonna wait. I'm testing things. I will make videos when it gets really good. But for now, I'm sticking to my WordPress and Elementor game. And I have to be honest with you, when I figured all of this out and I started testing with it, I got a bit scared and anxious, because I was like, wait, what's gonna happen to our jobs? But as you can see, the more I started to play with it, the more I also started to see the downsides. But that being said, I think we still have to accept that our industry is changing. And I already said something like this 1 or 2 years ago when the first AI came to WordPress. I said that in the future, the web designer should also become good at marketing. Maybe in the future, AI will become really good at web design, So then what are we gonna do, right? I think AI is raising the bar for web designers, but also for web developers. If your only skills are simple visual design and simple front-end development, well then I think you are in the danger zone. But if you know how to ask the right questions, how to be strategic with your clients, if you have marketing skills like analytics, email marketing, SEO, or even AI SEO, so showing up in the ChatGPT results, these are things that are becoming more relevant. And so I think maybe in a few years from now, we will not call ourselves web designers anymore, maybe web strategists or web marketers. Design is still needed, but I think we have to be a little bit more than just designers. Okay, I think that was enough for today. I'm constantly testing and playing with these tools, especially in my YouTube live streams. And I just want to leave you with one last thing, and that is that I had a funny side effect while working with these AI tools, and that's that I am less motivated now to do everything manually in Figma and Elementor, because somehow AI has made me a little bit lazy. So now I'm building a template library for Figma and Elementor, which I'm gonna show soon. But I think doing everything manually, that's gonna be a thing of the past. Okay, I hope that you found some value in this video. Let me know what you think down below. Let's discuss. Always interesting in the comments. And then I hope to see you in my next video.